Guys, hey, welcome to the show. I'm excited because I've got Emmett Dempsey on. He is a local Port St Lucie guy down here, and we were chatting the other day. I forget who got me in touch with you. Who was it? Somebody reached out to me and said, this guy is
Jim Wethington. Jim Wethington.
That's right, man. Big Jim. I love Jim Wethington. He's a great guy. Jim, if you're watching, and I know you are, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So we got to talking about his new podcast that he's building. And I've got a podcast too, but my podcast is really built around me just putting a load of effort in and not necessarily a whole lot of brain power. That's not what I pride myself in, man. I pride myself just forging ahead. And after talking with you, you put a lot of brain power into yours. You've got a lot of things behind it that really make it sound like you're doing the right thing. So I've got a lot of realtors that watch this show. And I push them all the time. You need to get on social media. You got to brand yourself. I think it'd be really interesting to hear from someone who's put a lot of thought into building a now growing podcast together. What it is you're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I looked at it, there's a thought leader, Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure you
love Gary V, baby.
Yeah, Gary V. I mean, and at the last, there was an industry conference last year where he basically said, look, building content for your business, for any business owner is as important as doing your taxes.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like your lifeblood. You need to be known on this device, a cell phone. More people have cell phones than running water in the world.
Really?
Really. That's a fact. So everyone has a cell phone, might not have, indoor plumbing, but they have a cell phone. So are you producing content about you, about why they should use you as a real estate professional on a daily basis? And Gary Vee says you should be doing 30 to 50 every day, which is crazy, but it's
blowing,
really. And because of where things are going, he's a big proponent of voice. Just looking at the stats, your Alexa and Google Homes are growing faster than smartphones did.
Yeah,
there's a huge uptake in podcasting. It's because it's a passive activity. You can listen in your car. For me, I'm a voracious podcast listener.
Yeah.
And I just know what I do as a consumer. Also, your podcast consumers are generally higher net worth, all those stats. And I posted something on my Facebook page a couple weeks ago about that, just the demographics of where it's going. And you need to be prepared for that. And I just saw the benefits I had of just doing video. I have a YouTube channel where I do a lot of, FAQs about, mortgages, VA loans, deep stuff, but also local content. And local content has been playing way better than any other stuff ever did. Like I did a moving to your town video, moving to Port St Lucie, just did a quick 10 reasons why. Like if you're selling real estate, you should be able to tell people why they want to live there. Right.
Yes. Yep.
So, that video has over 11,000 views. Like I was like, and I didn't think it would, but it's some thought leaders I talked to is like, yeah, do this video and I guarantee you it'll be good. And I decided to start a podcast about the Treasure Coast because there was nothing out there. Like you search Google, Apple Podcasts, there's nothing. There was a couple of church shows. There was a now defunct, even the newspaper had a podcast and they stopped doing it. So
interesting.
So it was what they call blue water. Basically, it's not filled with sharks. So that's why I decided to do it. Talk about the people that live in town that are interesting. And then, ultimately I want to do everybody's mortgage, of course. They should all come here. But, I add value. Here's why this place is cool. They'll talk about different things that you haven't heard. Even just a few interviews I've done so far. I've learned about new places and things like that. I interviewed Jim, who's the general manager of Hop Life, and I interviewed those business owners I haven't met before. It's just a different network that I haven't even met before. And those guests tell their two friends, and they want to be on. It's been really pretty cool so far.
That's awesome, man. So your new podcast, if I want to go watch it, how do I find it on YouTube?
On YouTube, you just Google Treasure Coast Podcast, and then it'll go to my YouTube channel. It's a playlist within my main channel for mortgages, and so you can check out all the local content I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, all the podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts is the main one, and you just search for Treasure Coast Podcast, and you'll find it. It's got a little blue emblem. So that's how you find it.
So you said that you had just started your podcast recently, but you've got, it sounds like, loads of content other than that. How long have you been doing all this content for?
I'd say middle of 2018 is when I was.
That's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, watching some Gary Vee videos. I even put out there, I'm starting a YouTube channel, so I decided, and growing up, I've never been the most articulate. I had a stutter. So for me, I'm not naturally like rah rah like Joe Rosen. You know, I'm not naturally outgoing like that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a way for me to, you know, come out of my shell, for me to present my personality, because everybody says, well, you're very even keel. It's like, well, that's kind of the way I've always been, but you know, I wanted to, you know, show your personality, show you why it's cool to get your mortgage with Emmett and all that stuff. So, and just put out questions that I know I get asked every day. I mean, how many questions do you get asked? Like, hey, how do you get pre-approved? Why is my credit score different than this? So it's just, you know, and then bashing Rocket Mortgage because they suck. So it's just all those different things. And you make a video about it, and amazingly, and then you learn how to do it. And I watch YouTube videos about how to do on YouTube, and there's so much content out there. Yeah, I mean, it's for free. It just blows my mind that you can have access to millions of people for nothing. And to understand where we've come from a media standpoint, we used to, even from radio and television, it was cool to be on TV as a kid, and people get that effect. So they see you on their screen. And there's a term for it. It slips my mind right now. But basically, they see you on their phone. And it's almost like the same effect as you watching yourself on TV. You're like, that's the effect.
Yeah, and I know, just speaking for myself, I mean, I do kind of similar deals with buyers and sellers. And like you said, a lot of those same questions that you get, I just jot it down on my phone. And when it comes to video creation time, I just pull out all those questions and I give the answers. Not only when you're with a buyer or you're in a listing presentation or something like that, do they already have rapport with you? You might not have the relationship built with them yet, but they already feel like they know you, even though you've never met them. And they already know that you know what you're talking about, or in my case, maybe I know what I'm talking about. And so they've already got a good feel for why you're in their home talking to them. And it establishes credibility right off the get-go, you know?
Yes, absolutely. It's just, and I've had clients who said, I watched all of your videos, and like for over a period of time. And then there's at that point when they're ready to make that move, they know, like, and trust you, because they've seen you and your face and your voice answering their questions. Like, well, when they go to find their realtor, their lender is like, well, I want to use this guy because he's helped me. Yeah. And that term I was talking about is called a parasocial relationship. It's kind of like you see like a character on Friends. Oh, you know, like Rachel's my friend. But Rachel's not real. It's just a character on TV. Yeah. But that's the affinity we find with people on a screen. It's called a parasocial relationship. So, and you find that.
So is this podcast just you? Do you have people on? How does that work?
The first one was just me. It was definitely an fest when you listen to it. But my policy is to get started and get good, because you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to love yourself on camera. You're never going to love how you sound. Yep. But you just got to get out there and do it. Yes. But it's going to be all guests. It's a guest format. I launched through 3 episodes. The first one's me talking about the podcast. It's pretty short. And the other 2 is our Michelle Berger, the town manager of Sewell's Point, and Tara Baldwin, the CEO of Operation 300, one of the best charities around here, I think. Yeah,
good one. Interesting. So I know for me, like, I've got scheduled out, I'm looking at it right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 11 weeks scheduled out with who it is I'm talking to, because I didn't do that at first. And I started scheduling things while I'd run into people on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And I'd say, hey, I do this thing, and this is when I'd like to do it. Can I have you on? I'd like to talk about whatever. And they'd say yes. And pretty soon I was like, holy smokes, man, I'm not writing down who I'm talking to. So we made a schedule, and now it's a system, man. It's running pretty well. But what kind of system are you using? How do you do that? And like, how far out are you scheduling this? Who are you talking to?
Well, I bought a course from Pat Flynn, who's kind of I guess a guru in the podcast, and he has a course about power up podcasting. So I figure if I'm going to do one, I'm going to do it the right way. He has a lot of tools. It's basically an Excel spreadsheet. That's basically what it is. It's basically scheduling out the interview date and what you got to do for each episode. And I think I'm booked out through April. I'm trying to get a few more, to get ahead of the game. And that batch content is one of the things a lot of YouTubers do. And that's one thing I need. I'm been slacking on my YouTube channel, to be honest. I need to get back on the horse. It's just finding the right topics that'll rank and things like that. So it's just filming all in one day. A lot of YouTubers will do 3 or 4 videos in the same day. Yep. And I know like Joe Rosen does like 4 interviews in a day. I think it's good for me.
Honestly, my lives are live, and I think a lot of people are like, oh man, you got some balls, you're getting on and doing lives. I do lives because I'm lazy, man. If I don't do a live, I got to edit it, and then I got to come back to it. And that's if I don't do a live. If I do a live, it's done. And as soon as I get done talking to you, I can get back to work, man. So it's honestly out of just efficiency. But when I make my, hey, this is how to help a buyer, this is how to help a seller videos. Yeah, I'll make 4, 5, 6 of those at once. And then I just spend my brain dead hours, as I call them, like from 8 to 10 o'clock at night. My wife's watching Netflix. I'm sitting next to her and I'm just editing my videos, man, because it doesn't take a lot of brain power. You know, I've got the brain power at 10 a.m. So I'm fired up. And at 8 o'clock at night, man, I'm dead. So that's a good activity.
Yeah, you know, and some people, you know, they fear about what they started. I use my iPad for the longest time. Like just about all my videos now are on my iPad. I just bought a DSLR camera to upgrade and get some lights to because hypothetically you can come in the office at night. Because right now you gotta film during daytime. You know, because when you lose daylight, you can't really film unless you have lights, and lights are pretty inexpensive. You
Is this where you're shooting where you're at now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Yep.
So, you know, I have this. I got my DSLR camera, Sony 6400. You know, before I just did it off my iPad and off my iPhone. Like that moving to Port St Lucie video is with a smartphone gimbal on my iPhone.
That's awesome, man. What are you using to edit your videos?
For the longest time, it was iMovie on the iPad, which is pretty limiting, but it was easy to learn. I'm trying to learn Adobe After Effects. Yeah. Not After Effects, but Premiere Pro. So that's been a challenge. It's a little different, but I wanted a PC-based one, and I might, you know, I've heard Final Cut Pro is good, so I need to upgrade that because now it's in a different format now. It's like the files are bigger, and I have to use it on the PC. So, you know, I'm learning something new. Yeah.
Are you adding graphics or anything? You doing thumbnails? How does that work?
Oh, thumbnails, I use Canva, and Canva's free. Yeah. Like I said, I just went on YouTube and how to do a thumbnail, and they show it's just basically high res and your picture, and it's really, once you get the hang of it, you can kind of copy and paste the next one and kind of just change them around and, you know, see what other YouTubers are doing that you like. You know, I'd say it's a lot of copying. It's a lot of, you know, curation. So I curate a lot of their techniques. I did a lot of their format, you know, short format for a podcast as well as for video. It's basically your hook, the intro, the introduction, and then the interview, and then the call to action and the close. So it's just, you know, logical steps how you can edit, and it's just the repetition and the sameness that they get.
So when it comes to marketing, you're putting this up to on YouTube, and then are you doing cross marketing, or how are you working that? What are the little tips and tricks behind the scenes you're using?
No, I mean I use a keyword research tool. It's called Morning Fame, morningfa.me. So I learned how to search optimize your videos before I even push play. It's entirely keyword research. So you try and put your YouTube videos in a river, so to speak, basically where search traffic is. If no one's searching for your keywords or for that particular topic, you're never going to get found. And not only that, it's not necessarily a popular topic, but you're also competing against bigger channels, with more subscribers, more views. So you got to find longer tail keywords and kind of play that game. And that's what it's a specialized YouTube keyword research tool.
That's amazing, man. There's a lot to it. I think there's a lot more than people think.
There's a lot. There is a lot. And I just, like I said, I just learned it and found this one and say, hey, this YouTuber says use Morning Fame. Okay, what's Morning Fame? It's not that difficult. It's just finding things you want to talk about. And once you learn how to use it, it's pretty easy. It's just
You and I were talking before, and you know, I'm always focused on value proposition. I know it's kind of a nerdy, trendy word, but honestly, there's got to be a thing that sets you apart, whether you're a mortgage lender, a realtor, a car salesman, value wise, because if there's not, then I can buy a car with anybody. I can buy a house with anybody and get a loan with anybody. So you brought up mortgage coach as a big part of your value proposition. And again, this whole show is focused around how to help realtors. I thought it was kind of cool and interesting, and it really adds a lot to your clients. Can you touch on mortgage coach and how, as a realtor, would I benefit from that?
Well, you as a realtor, you know, have a happy client, because, you know, buying a house can be very scary. even for a sophisticated buyer, you have your millennials are your largest group of home buyers. They're, in their mid 30s, and they're buying a lot of homes, but they want to do they want things that are techie but also personal. Because it's a misnomer that they don't want human interaction. They do, but they want things provided, which has a nice tech overlay to it, basically. And so the way I present options, it's not just a rate and a fee sheet, because so often we've been spoiled with low rates. It's like, well, I want 20% down and that's it, and 30-year fix. It's like, really? Why? Like I having a goals-based conversation is like, what do you hope to accomplish? Because statistically, most people move every 5 to 7 years. So is it worth buying points? Is it worth based on where we project rates to go? So it's just having an actual goals conversation and giving them what a client needs. So Mortgage Coach allows me to present different loan options. Like, okay, what if I do put down 1 point or 2 points? What does that look like? Or how, I use it for when they're shopping. Okay, here's a $200,000 house, 250, 300, 400. And then you can see them side by side. It's like, well, the cash to close is pretty similar because you're financing, 95% of it, or whatever, is all up and down the actual scale. I was like, okay, well, for 250, so what if at 1 point or 2 point, how different is the rate? So you can kind of make a good evaluation. But it also shows, why buy a house? Okay, why don't I just rent? Okay, well, let me show you. It's because you're building no equity, because even if you're using amortization, which is making your mortgage payment, because you got to make a payment no matter what, whether it's rent or buy, right? So let me show you how by making a payment every single month for 5 years, even at a zero appreciation, you're going to build equity. Really? So yes, because you're forced savings, and that forced savings is the difference in buy versus rent. Because every buy versus rent I do is just thousands of dollars over 5 years that you're throwing away.
Yeah.
And there was a good a stat that even 3/4 of millennials think that renting is cheaper than buying. So it's part of our way to educate the population about why it's a good time to buy. It's like, why? Okay, this house, here in this area, you go on some stats, like it costs, rents aren't cheap in Port St Lucie. I mean, 3 or 4 bedroom house, $1,800. I mean, easy. So okay, it's a comparison. You can either rent or buy. My job is to show you those two different roads. And here's where you end up in 5 years. So it's about becoming an actual advisor, not just a guy who's just, it's not just a rate. And then coming, well, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your goals? What do you want to accomplish?
Yep. Those are great questions, man. I'll tell you, going back to what you said, if I'm charging you as a landlord $1,800 to live in my home, that means that my mortgage, taxes, insurance, all that good stuff is less than $1,800. I have to make a profit off of you, or I'm not going to rent it out. So when you're renting, unless that person is in a really unique, rare, distressed situation and they're choosing to lose money every month, which again is rare, they're making money off of you. Why pay them money also? And you're not building any equity. So that's a great point. Now, I know when I was in the Army, we would move every 2 to 3 years. And so I built an Excel spreadsheet because I'm a big numbers nerd. And it showed me, based on, whatever variables I put in, where the break-even point was, where it made sense. It always made sense to rent short-term, because you're going to have to pay those sales fees eventually, right? You got to pay the big realtor. But at some point, and it was usually around that 3 to 4.5 year range, it always made sense to buy. With Mortgage Coach, are you seeing something like specific numbers? Are you seeing a break-even point? Do you get to see the different options that they have? Like, is there something visual?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's visual. It's visual. So I can show you an example, real quick. It's like one I did yesterday for a client who was renting an area that can rent for $1,800 versus FHA, 3.5, 3.75, or 4%. But now, obviously, lower the rate, the more it costs and discount. You can see the different cash to close, along here. Also, well, what if I go conventional? Say, well, you got to put down more down. The rate's generally higher, based on that scenario. So here you see it's visual right here, just on payment. People want to know how much down, how much per month. Okay, so you come down here to net monthly payment, that the $1,800 rent versus the net payment of this forced savings principal paid. You see that?
Yeah.
And then how it looks. So at all these different options, okay, rent versus principal paid in 60 months, that's 5 years, $117,000 in rent.
Yeah, it adds up quick, man.
Versus building $26,000 in equity just from principal pay down.
Yeah.
So you can see here's just principal pay just by making your payment, $26,000 bottom line. Okay, assuming 4% appreciation, your value, raised to that. So in 5 years, you should have about $89,000 in equity. So that's kind of what I show you, kind of a roadmap of where you're going to be if you buy this house versus renting. You get zero equity.
So I can meet with you as a potential buyer. Are you pulling this up on your screen? Are you emailing it to me? Do I log in? How does it work?
I will. Basically I can, whatever works for you. So every client's different. A lot of times I'll walk you through like I just did on a screen share, and I'll record a video using Soapbox and kind of walk you through it. Just like I just walked you through it. It's like, here's this option. Here's what my recommendation is based on your goals. And here's how I would execute that. So my job is to lay out options, because a lot of folks don't know what's available to them. Whether different down payment options. And another thing too, is that a lot of folks think they still need 20% down.
Yeah.
That's really not the case.
Are you seeing a lot of people who want the zero down or the FHA low down, or a lot of people wanting to put down cash right now?
There's a lot of down payment programs out there. I'm not a big fan of them. And I know there's other lenders that'll do them. I just don't like them because nothing's for free. We know that. Every down payment program is paid through some way. And usually it's from a silent second. So they'll finance your closing costs and down payment, and you get in for nothing, but you walk into a home upside down. And what if something happens? What if you get sick or you have to move and you have to have a fire sale in your house because you financed your down payment?
Yeah.
So you're walking, and not only that, a lot of those down payment programs are, a full point higher or so. On interest rate. And for some folks, the numbers might make sense. All they care about is getting in for nothing. It's really your choice. But my recommendation from I just don't like offering them because I don't think they're the best thing for the client. So I like having the 3.5% down, having some skin in the game, and then you can also have sellers pay closing costs, especially on resales, and that's been the cleanest way that I've seen. VA loans are really good. I'm a veteran, you're a veteran, so you can get in. It's a zero down, there aren't costs involved, but with some seller paid help, lender paid help, you can get in for nothing. So those loans are still there.
So we're down here in Florida. If I've got realtors watching from New York, Chicago, Seattle, but they think that Mortgage Coach is a great program, how do they find out if they're hooked up with a lender who's got something like that?
Well, yeah, you go onto Facebook and you search for the Mortgage Coach Productivity Group, and there's a lot of realtors in that group too. Zuckerberg was pushing Facebook groups hard on the Super Bowl, so that's kind of where a lot of things are. So definitely join that group. There's a lot of great content. Go find the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of great content, even for realtors, especially open house strategies.
Yeah.
There was a realtor out in California, and she talked about that's all she did was open houses when she got started, like brand new area. You dropped out of, if I dropped out of the sky and landed in the city, what do I do? And she just did open houses. That was her thing. Some people hate open houses. It's really your choice, but this is how she did it with a modern open house using a Mortgage Coach, along with it.
Interesting, man. You said it was called Mortgage Coach Productivity. That's a Facebook group?
Yeah, the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. And they have calls every Tuesday and Friday, with different top producers all over the country.
In the group?
In the group, yes.
Awesome, man. That's cool. So if people want to find you on any platform, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, they go to Facebook, Google my name. Usually the handle I use is Emmett Mortgage. EMMETT Mortgage. So just Google my name and you'll find all my info. Go to my website, DempseyMortgage.com. You can put your info in there. Give me a call, shoot me a text message. That's how you can find me.
Awesome, man. Well, this stuff has been really helpful. It's been eye-opening. I didn't know anything about Mortgage Coach, so that's really interesting, and I really appreciate your time, my friend.
Okay.
All right. Well, you've been one, and you guys stay fired up. I appreciate you watching.
Hoorah.